The room went silent the moment the envelope hit the glass table. You could hear a pin drop, and then everything exploded. Nobody expected it to go this far. Fans thought the whispers would fade, the rumors would cool off, and the tension would stay behind closed doors. But instead, the drama detonated in public, and the fallout was immediate, vicious, and impossible to ignore. When the DNA test results finally surfaced, they didn't just answer a question, they ignited a war. Yandy didn't walk in angry. She walked in calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that makes everyone else nervous. Erica, on the other hand, was already pacing, her voice sharp, her emotions raw, daring anyone to challenge her truth. Cameras weren't even rolling yet, but the energy was already thick with betrayal, resentment, and years of unresolved pain. Then came the words no one was ready to hear. "He's the father." In that instant, fans were shocked, emotions ran high, and everything changed. What was once speculation turned into confirmation, and confirmation turned into confrontation. Yandy snapped, and when she snapped, she didn't hold back. Voices were raised, accusations flew, old wounds were ripped open as Yandy allegedly lunged toward Erica, screaming that she'd crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. Erica fired back, claiming she'd been silenced for too long, her truth ignored while everyone else played victim. The family was left divided, sides were chosen, and alliances shattered in real time. Friends rushed in, trying to break it up. Some defended Yandy's loyalty. Others said Erica had every right to speak her truth. Fans watching from the outside couldn't believe what they were seeing. Social media lit up within minutes, timelines flooded with hot takes, disbelief, and rage. And just when you thought it couldn't get messier, someone dropped a bombshell that flipped the entire narrative on its head. A secret meeting, a hidden timeline, and a motive that made everyone question who was really telling the truth. This wasn't just about a DNA test anymore. This was about pride, reputation, motherhood, and a past that refused to stay buried. Because once the truth comes out, there's no putting it back. And this was only the beginning. The night didn't start with shouting. It started with looks. Long, heavy looks that carried years of tension, rumors, and unspoken resentment. Yandy sat on one end of the room, her hands folded so tight her knuckles had gone pale. Across from her, Erica leaned back in her chair, chin lifted, lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. It was a challenge. Everyone in the room felt it. The air was thick, like it could crack if someone breathed too hard. Mendeecees stood in the middle, frozen, eyes bouncing between the two women whose lives were now colliding in the most public way possible. Nobody spoke at first. The envelope sat on the table between them, plain, white, ordinary, yet powerful enough to destroy everything. Cameras weren't officially rolling, but phones were out. Someone always presses record. Yandy finally broke the silence. Her voice was low, controlled, but shaking underneath. She said she never wanted it to come to this. She said she fought for years to keep her family together, to protect her children from chaos, from mess, from embarrassment. She said loyalty meant everything to her, and tonight felt like loyalty had been dragged through the dirt. Erica laughed, sharp and quick. She said loyalty was easy when you weren't the one being silenced. She said she had carried her truth alone for too long, while everyone painted her as the villain. Her eyes flicked to Mendeecees, then back to Yandy. She said the truth doesn't disappear just because it makes people uncomfortable. That's when Yandy stood up. The chair scraped loudly against the floor, making everyone flinch. She pointed at Erica, her composure cracking. She accused her of doing this for attention, for revenge, for clout. She said Erica knew exactly what she was doing by letting this go public. She said children were involved, marriages were involved, real lives were being torn apart for a storyline. Erica shot back immediately, her voice rising. She said Yandy didn't own the truth. She said motherhood didn't give anyone the right to erase another woman's experience. She said if the test confirmed what she already knew, then maybe it was time everyone stopped pretending. Mendeecees finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. He said he never meant for things to get this far. He said mistakes were made years ago, mistakes he thought were buried. He said he loved his family. That word, family, landed like gasoline on fire. Yandy spun toward him, eyes blazing. She asked him how long he knew. She asked him how long he let her defend him while knowing there was even a possibility this could be true. Her voice broke as she said she stood by him when the world was against him, when rumors were flying, when people tried to tear them apart. He didn't answer fast enough. That pause was all Erica needed. She leaned forward, voice dripping with bitterness, and said that silence was the real answer. She said she warned him this day would come. She said secrets have expiration dates. Fans watching later would say this was the exact moment everything shifted. Someone finally slid the envelope closer to the center of the table. Nobody wanted to touch it. The tension was unbearable. Yandy stared at it like it was a ticking bomb. Erica crossed her arms, confident, almost defiant. Mendeecees looked like he might pass out. When the envelope was opened, time seemed to slow. The paper shook slightly as it was unfolded. Eyes scanned the page. Hearts raced. And then the words were read out loud. The DNA test confirmed it. Mendeecees was the father. The room erupted instantly. Yandy screamed, not words, just raw sound, pain pouring out of her chest. She knocked the chair back as she moved toward Erica, fury written all over her face. People rushed in, hands out, trying to hold her back as she shouted that Erica had destroyed her family. She said this was unforgivable. She said some lines should never be crossed. Erica stood her ground, yelling back that the truth wasn't an attack. She said Yandy should be angry at the man who put them all here, not the woman who refused to lie anymore. Tears streamed down her face, but her voice stayed strong. She said she wouldn't apologize for reality. Friends stepped in, voices overlapping, chaos everywhere. Someone told Yandy to breathe. Someone told Erica to stop provoking her. Someone yelled that the kids would see this one day. That line hit hard. Yandy collapsed into a chair, sobbing, hands over her face, her world shattering in front of everyone. Mendeecees tried to reach for her, but she pulled away. She said, "Don't touch me." She said she needed space, answers, honesty. She asked how many more secrets were waiting to explode. He swore there were none. Nobody believed him. Outside the room, fans were already reacting. Messages flooded in. Emotions ran high online, with people choosing sides instantly. Some defended Yandy, calling her a loyal wife blindsided by betrayal. Others stood with Erica, saying truth should never be hidden to protect appearances. The family was left divided, not just inside that room, but across the entire fanbase. As the night dragged on, accusations kept flying. Erica revealed there were conversations, texts, moments that proved this wasn't some random accident. Yandy demanded to see everything. She said if she was going to be hurt, she deserved the whole truth. Mendeecees looked trapped, exposed, his past crashing into his present with no escape. And just when it seemed like nothing else could be said, Erica dropped her voice and said there was more. She said the timing everyone believed was wrong. She said the truth about when everything happened would change how people saw all of this. The room went quiet again. Yandy slowly lifted her head, eyes red, voice trembling as she asked what she meant. Erica hesitated for the first time that night. Then she said the next revelation would hurt even more than the DNA. And that's when everyone realized this was far from over. Yandy stared at Erica like she didn't recognize her anymore. Her voice came out low, dangerous, asking Erica not to play games. She said if there was more, she needed to hear it now, not later, not leaked, not twisted online. Erica swallowed hard, her confidence cracking just enough for everyone to notice. She said the truth had already destroyed enough tonight, but once it was out, it couldn't be taken back. Mendeecees shook his head immediately. He said no. He said this wasn't fair. He said dragging timelines into it would only make things worse. That was when Yandy snapped again, whipping her head toward him and telling him things couldn't get worse than they already were. She said the lies were done. She said she wanted everything, even if it broke her. Erica took a deep breath and said the night they were all arguing about, the night everyone thought things happened, wasn't the real beginning. She said it started earlier. Much earlier. She said there were moments when Yandy and Mendeecees were already together, already building something, already calling it love. Gasps filled the room. Someone whispered no way. Someone else cursed under their breath. Yandy's chest tightened. She said Erica was lying. She said she remembered those months clearly. She said she knew when her relationship started, when boundaries were set. Erica shook her head and said memories get blurry when people choose not to see what's right in front of them. She said there were dates, messages, proof. Mendeecees looked like he was drowning. He ran his hands over his face, pacing now, voice breaking as he admitted he should have told the truth a long time ago. He said he didn't know how. He said every time he tried, the stakes got higher, the family got bigger, the consequences scarier. Fans watching later would say this was the moment sympathy turned to disappointment. Yandy laughed bitterly through tears. She said fear didn't excuse betrayal. She said building a family on half-truths was still a lie. She asked him if he ever once thought about how she would feel finding out like this, in front of everyone, with cameras and strangers dissecting her pain. Erica stepped closer, her voice softer now. She said she never wanted to hurt Yandy like this. She said she wanted accountability, not destruction. Yandy snapped back that accountability would have been honesty from the start. She said Erica didn't get to play victim and hero at the same time. The argument spiraled fast. Voices overlapped. Accusations of manipulation, silence, cowardice filled the air. Someone brought up the children again, asking what this would do to them. Yandy froze at that, her hands shaking. She said her kids were the only reason she was still standing. She said she would protect them no matter who she had to cut off. Mendeecees pleaded with her not to make decisions in anger. He said they could work through this privately. That word privately made Erica scoff. She said private was how this mess survived so long. She said truth needed light, even if it burned. Outside, fans were already dissecting every second. Clips leaked. Opinions exploded. Emotions ran high everywhere. Some said Yandy deserved better. Others said Erica deserved peace. Many said Mendeecees had failed everyone involved. The family was left divided in ways no apology could immediately fix. Back inside, Yandy demanded to see the proof. Erica hesitated, then pulled out her phone. The screen lit up with messages, timestamps, conversations that made Yandy's breath hitch. Her hands trembled as she scrolled, each line cutting deeper. She whispered that she defended him during those exact weeks. She said she fought for him while he was hiding this. Mendeecees dropped into a chair, defeated. He admitted it was true. He admitted he convinced himself it was over, that it didn't matter, that starting fresh erased the past. Yandy looked at him like he was a stranger. She said the past doesn't disappear just because you ignore it. The room fell silent again, heavy and uncomfortable. Erica wiped her tears and said she was done carrying this alone. She said she didn't want drama, just acknowledgement. Yandy stood slowly, steady now in a way that scared everyone. She said acknowledgement didn't heal betrayal. She said trust once broken changes everything forever. She walked toward the door, stopping only to say she needed time. She said tonight changed her marriage, her family, her reality. She said nothing would ever be the same again. Mendeecees tried to follow, but she told him to stay. She said space was the only thing keeping her from completely breaking. As Yandy left, Erica sank into a chair, exhaustion washing over her. She whispered that the truth was finally out, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like loss. Fans later would say this was the calm before the next storm, because when truth collides with pride, the fallout is never immediate. And somewhere between shattered trust and exposed secrets, everyone knew the next chapter would be even messier. The door slammed behind Yandy, echoing down the hallway like a final warning. For a moment, nobody moved. The room felt hollow without her, like the center had been ripped out and left everyone else standing in the wreckage. Mendeecees stared at the door long after she was gone, his eyes glassy, his mouth slightly open like he wanted to say something but didn't know how. Erica broke the silence first, her voice quiet, almost fragile. She said this wasn't how she imagined it ending. Someone snapped back that nothing was ending, this was just beginning. She flinched at that, nodding slowly, as if she already knew. Mendeecees finally stood up again, running his hands through his hair, pacing like a caged animal. He said he needed to talk to Yandy alone. He said cameras, people, opinions made everything worse. A friend told him it was too late for that privacy left the building the moment the test came out. That comment hit hard. Outside, Yandy leaned against a wall, sliding down until she was sitting on the cold floor. Her chest felt tight, like she couldn't get enough air. Images replayed in her head over and over. Smiles that now felt fake. Moments she defended him publicly. Nights she prayed for her family. Fans were shocked later when they saw her like this, stripped of strength, finally allowing herself to break. A producer approached cautiously, asking if she was okay. Yandy laughed bitterly, asking what okay even meant anymore. She said her entire reality felt staged, like she'd been living in someone else's story without knowing it. She said the betrayal hurt more because she trusted him with everything. Inside the room, Erica sat alone now. Most people had stepped away, giving space, giving judgment. She scrolled through her phone, messages flooding in. Some were supportive, telling her she was brave. Others were brutal, blaming her for everything. Emotions ran high as she read them, tears silently falling. She whispered that telling the truth shouldn't feel this lonely. Mendeecees walked over to her, stopping a few feet away. He said he never wanted to hurt anyone. Erica looked up at him sharply and said intent didn't erase impact. She said he let both women believe half stories because it was easier than being honest. She said everyone was paying the price now. He asked her what she wanted. She laughed sadly and said she wanted peace, but peace didn't come from lies. She said the child deserved truth, clarity, stability. She said she wasn't going to disappear to make things comfortable for everyone else. Back in the hallway, Yandy's phone buzzed non-stop. Family members, friends, fans all reaching out. She ignored most of it. One message finally broke her composure completely. It was from someone asking how she was going to explain this to the kids. Her hands shook as she dropped the phone, burying her face in her arms. She whispered that she failed them. A friend rushed over, kneeling beside her, telling her none of this was her fault. Yandy shook her head, saying she missed signs, trusted too deeply, believed too hard. She said love made her blind. Hours passed, but the tension never left. Mendeecees finally approached Yandy again, keeping his distance. He said he would do anything to fix this. Yandy looked up at him slowly, her eyes empty. She said some things can't be fixed, only survived. She asked him if he even understood the damage. He said he was trying. She said trying was what he should have done before secrets grew teeth. He admitted he was scared. Scared of losing her, scared of destroying his family, scared of facing his past. Yandy stood up, steady again, telling him fear didn't excuse deception. She said she needed time, real time, not promises. She said trust would have to be rebuilt from the ground up, if at all. Inside, Erica prepared to leave. As she stood, someone asked if she felt satisfied now. She paused, turning back slowly. She said satisfaction wasn't the word. She said honesty came with a cost she was still paying. The family was left divided, but silence had divided them long before this. As Erica walked out, she passed Yandy in the hallway. For a brief second, their eyes met. No words were spoken, just pain, history, and an understanding that neither of them truly won. Fans later replayed that moment over and over, calling it haunting. The night ended without resolution, but the damage was permanent. Alliances were fractured, trust was shattered, and as the story spread, one thing became clear to everyone watching. The truth didn't bring peace. It brought war. The following morning didn't bring clarity. It brought consequences. Headlines were already forming before the sun came up, blogs racing each other to spin the story first. Fans were shocked by how fast the narrative exploded, how private pain became public spectacle overnight. Every clip, every tear, every raised voice was dissected frame by frame. Yandy woke up feeling heavy, like the weight of the night had settled into her bones. She sat at the edge of the bed, staring at nothing, replaying Erica's words over and over. Much earlier, those two words refused to leave her mind. She thought about timelines she once trusted, memories she now questioned, moments that suddenly felt tainted. Her phone buzzed again, but she didn't check it. She already knew what was waiting. Mendeecees watched her from across the room, unsure if he was allowed to speak. The silence between them was louder than any argument from the night before. Finally, he said her name softly. She didn't look at him. He told her he loved her. She exhaled slowly and asked him when love started meaning secrets. That question crushed him more than yelling ever could. He said he wanted to explain everything properly, not in chaos, not in anger. Yandy finally turned toward him, her eyes tired. She said explanations didn't change facts. She said trust wasn't broken in one moment, it was chipped away every time he chose not to tell the truth. She said she needed honesty now more than apologies. He nodded, swallowing hard, and started talking. He admitted how he convinced himself it was over, how he minimized it, how he thought time would erase it. Yandy listened, arms crossed, heart guarded. She said time only makes lies more dangerous. She said the longer they live, the more people they hurt. Meanwhile, Erica sat alone in her apartment, curtains drawn, phone face down on the table. The night replayed in her head too, but differently. She remembered Yandy's scream, the look on her face, the way the room turned on her in waves. She whispered to herself that she did the right thing, but doubt crept in anyway. Truth was freeing, but freedom felt cold. A close friend came over, telling Erica the internet was on fire. Some fans praised her courage. Others accused her of destroying a family for attention. Emotions ran high as she read the comments. She said people only love truth when it doesn't disrupt their favorites. She said being honest made her the villain again. Back at Yandy's place, family members started calling. Advice poured in from all sides. Some told her to walk away. Others told her to fight for her marriage. The family was left divided even within their own circle. Yandy listened quietly, then said she needed to make her own decision, not one based on fear or image. Later that day, Mendeecees tried to reach Erica. When she answered, the conversation was tense. He said things had spiraled beyond control. Erica told him that control was an illusion he used to avoid accountability. She said now everyone saw the truth, and they'd have to live with it. She reminded him the child was still at the center of all this, not the drama. He asked if she regretted it. Erica paused. She said regret wasn't the right word. She said she regretted the pain, not the truth. She said secrets don't protect children, honesty does. When the call ended, Mendeecees felt emptier than before. That evening, Yandy finally stepped outside. Cameras caught her leaving, face composed but eyes still swollen. Fans gathered, some supportive, some intrusive. Emotions ran high as questions were shouted at her. She didn't answer. She just kept walking, choosing silence for the first time. Online, theories spread like wildfire. People argued timelines, intentions, loyalty. Some blamed Erica entirely. Others held Mendeecees responsible. Many said Yandy deserved peace above all. The story had taken on a life of its own, and nobody involved could control it anymore. Late that night, Yandy sat alone again, scrolling through old photos. Birthdays, vacations, smiles that once felt real. She whispered that she didn't know what her future looked like anymore. But she knew one thing. Nothing would ever go back to the way it was. And as the world waited for her next move, the tension only grew, because everyone sensed the hardest decisions were still ahead. The pressure didn't ease. If anything, it tightened. Every step Yandy took felt watched, judged, analyzed. Silence, which she thought would protect her, became its own kind of headline. Fans were shocked by how quiet she stayed while everyone else spoke for her. Some said she was plotting. Others said she was breaking. The truth lived somewhere in between. Inside the house, the atmosphere was fragile. Mendeecees tried to act normal, but nothing was normal. Every sound felt amplified. Every glance felt loaded. He cooked dinner that night, placing the plate in front of Yandy like an offering. She looked at it, then at him, and asked if he thought food could fix betrayal. He lowered his eyes and said no. He said he just didn't know what else to do. She pushed the plate away gently, not angry, just tired. She said she needed space inside her own mind before she could even think about fixing anything outside of it. She said love shouldn't feel like survival. Those words lingered in the room long after she walked away. Across town, Erica finally broke her silence online. She didn't do an interview. She didn't name names. She posted a single sentence about truth having a cost. The reaction was instant. Emotions ran high again. Supporters flooded her comments. Critics tore her apart. She stared at the screen, numb, realizing that once the door was opened, it never really closed. A mutual friend reached out to both women separately, suggesting a private conversation without cameras, without noise. Yandy considered it. Erica hesitated. Both knew that seeing each other again would reopen wounds that hadn't even begun to heal. But avoiding it felt like letting the chaos win. Days passed before it finally happened. The meeting was quiet, neutral ground, no audience. When Yandy walked in and saw Erica sitting there, something in her chest tightened. Erica stood slowly, unsure if she should greet her. Yandy nodded once, stiff, and sat down. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Yandy said she wanted to understand, not forgive, just understand. Erica nodded, tears already forming. She said she never wanted to be part of tearing a family apart. She said she wanted acknowledgement, not revenge. She said being silent nearly destroyed her. Yandy listened, arms crossed, absorbing every word. When it was her turn, she said being blindsided destroyed her sense of reality. She said loyalty was her foundation, and watching it crumble felt like losing the ground beneath her feet. She said she wasn't sure she could ever separate Erica from the pain. Erica didn't argue. She said she accepted that. She said truth didn't guarantee understanding, only honesty. The family was left divided still, but in that room, something shifted. Not peace, not forgiveness, but clarity. When they left, they didn't hug. They didn't smile. They simply walked in opposite directions, both changed. Back home, Yandy told Mendeecees about the meeting. He listened quietly, fear written all over his face. She told him she needed time away. Not to punish him, but to think. She said staying while confused would only create more damage. He nodded, swallowing hard, saying he understood, even though it shattered him. As bags were packed, fans speculated wildly. Emotions ran high again as photos surfaced of Yandy leaving alone. Some praised her strength, others begged her to stay. The noise never stopped. That night, alone in a different space, Yandy finally allowed herself to breathe. She said out loud that she didn't know if her marriage would survive, but she knew she would. She knew her children needed a whole mother, not a broken one pretending. Mendeecees sat in the empty house, staring at walls filled with memories. Regret pressed down on him like weight. He whispered apologies to rooms that couldn't answer back. He realized too late that silence had cost him everything. And as fans waited for the next headline, the next explosion, the truth was quieter, heavier, and far more complicated than anyone expected. Because sometimes the real drama isn't the fight. It's what happens after the cameras stop. The days apart stretched longer than anyone expected. What Yandy thought would be a short break turned into a period of deep reflection that shook her to the core. Waking up alone felt strange, but also honest. There was no pretending, no performing strength for anyone else. Just her thoughts, loud and relentless. She replayed every chapter of her relationship, questioning moments she once felt proud of. Trust, she realized, wasn't just broken by betrayal, it was shattered by the realization that she had defended a version of reality that never fully existed. Mendeecees tried calling it first, then texting, then voice notes filled with apologies, promises, explanations. Yandy listened to some, ignored others. Not out of spite, but because hearing his voice reopened wounds she was barely holding together. She told him she needed silence to think clearly. He agreed, even though that silence ate at him more painfully than any argument ever could. Inside him, guilt grew heavy. He started remembering the moments he chose comfort over honesty. Each time he convinced himself it would never surface. Each time he told himself protecting the family meant hiding the truth. Now, alone, those justifications sounded hollow. Regret settled in like a permanent shadow. Erica, meanwhile, faced her own storm. The attention didn't slow down. Interview requests poured in. People wanted her side, her emotions, her tears. She turned most of them down. She said if she kept talking, the truth would get twisted into entertainment. Still, rumors followed her everywhere. Some claimed she planned this. Others said she deserved justice. Emotions ran high and left her exhausted. One night, Erica sat alone scrolling through old photos of her child. She whispered that everything she did was for them, even if the world refused to understand that. She wondered if telling the truth had really brought peace or just a different kind of pain. But she reminded herself that silence would have eaten her alive eventually. Weeks passed, and the tension shifted. Fans began speculating about reconciliation, separation, legal battles. The family was left divided in public opinion, with no clear villain, no clear hero. Yandy watched from a distance, choosing not to feed the chaos. She focused on her children, routines, stability. But at night, doubt crept in. Could love survive something like this? One evening, she agreed to meet Mendeecees again. Neutral ground, no cameras, no friends, just them. When he walked in, he looked smaller somehow. Tired, humbled. He didn't rush toward her. He waited. She appreciated that more than she wanted to admit. They talked for hours, not yelling, not crying at first, just truth. He admitted everything without minimizing it. Timelines, fears, cowardice. He said he understood now that silence was a choice, and he chose wrong. Yandy listened, her heart heavy. She told him forgiveness wasn't a switch. She said rebuilding trust would take more than words. It would take time, consistency, accountability. He said he was willing to do whatever it took. Therapy, distance, transparency. She nodded, but made no promises. She said loving him didn't mean ignoring reality anymore. She said she needed to choose herself for once. As they parted, nothing was resolved, but something was different. Honesty, even painful, felt cleaner than lies ever had. Outside their world, Erica made a decision of her own. She agreed to a controlled interview, setting boundaries, telling her story without attacking anyone. She spoke about accountability, about motherhood, about the cost of silence. Fans were shocked by her vulnerability. Some softened, others stayed critical, but for the first time, Erica felt heard without screaming. Yandy watched clips later, quietly. She didn't agree with everything said, but she recognized the pain. It didn't erase her own, but it humanized it. The situation no longer felt black and white. It felt tragic, layered, real. Months later, the noise slowly faded. Not gone, but quieter. Life demanded attention again. School schedules, work, healing. Yandy and Mendeecees remained in a fragile space, neither fully together nor fully apart. They learned how to communicate without pretending. Some days felt hopeful, others felt impossible. Erica focused on rebuilding her own peace. She stayed out of the spotlight when she could, centering her child, redefining her strength. She learned that telling the truth didn't mean living in the drama forever. Fans continued to debate, to choose sides, to replay moments. But the people inside the story carried scars no comment section could fully understand. Because behind every headline, every viral clip, there were real lives trying to move forward after the truth changed everything. And even though the future remained uncertain, one thing was clear to everyone involved. Nothing built on silence ever survives untouched. Time didn't heal the situation the way people expected. It softened some edges, but it sharpened others. The public moved on to the next scandal, but inside the circle, nothing was settled. Yandy learned quickly that healing wasn't a straight line. Some mornings she woke up calm, convinced she could rebuild her life with strength and clarity. Other mornings she woke up angry all over again, the betrayal replaying like it had just happened. Mendeecees tried to show consistency. He checked in without pressure. He showed up for the kids. He stayed transparent, sometimes painfully so. Every notification on his phone was left unlocked. Every schedule shared. But trust, once broken, doesn't return just because someone behaves better. Yandy told him that. She said trust had to feel safe again, not just look good on paper. There were moments when they laughed accidentally, catching themselves off guard. Those moments hurt almost as much as the bad ones. Because they reminded her of what they used to be. What she thought they were. She told him that loving him and resenting him existed at the same time, and she didn't know how to separate the two yet. Meanwhile, Erica felt the delayed impact of the storm. Once the noise died down, the loneliness got louder. Friends who encouraged her to speak up disappeared when the attention faded. She realized how many people only cared about the drama, not the aftermath. Emotions ran high in private now, with no audience to validate them. She questioned herself often, not the truth, but the timing. The delivery. The fallout. She wondered if there was any way this story could have ended without so much damage. Deep down, she knew the answer was no. Secrets rot everything they touch. One unexpected afternoon, Yandy received a message from Erica. Not an apology, not an accusation, just a simple acknowledgement. She said she hoped Yandy was finding moments of peace. Yandy stared at the screen for a long time. She didn't respond immediately. When she finally did, she kept it short. Respectful, distant, but the exchange lingered in her mind longer than she expected. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a crack in the wall. Mendeecees noticed the shift. He didn't comment on it, afraid to say the wrong thing. He was learning that silence, when chosen carefully, could be more respectful than words. Still, fear followed him everywhere. Fear that no matter what he did, it would never be enough. The kids, unaware of the full details, sensed the change. Children always do. They asked questions about schedules, about why things felt different. Yandy answered carefully, shielding them from adult pain. She promised herself that no matter how broken she felt, she would never let the chaos swallow their sense of safety. That promise became her anchor. As weeks turned into months, conversations between Yandy and Mendeecees grew deeper. Harder. They talked about accountability in ways they never had before. About power. About silence. About how protecting an image nearly destroyed everything real. Mendeecees admitted he had lived too long avoiding discomfort, choosing short-term peace over long-term truth. Yandy told him she refused to carry that burden anymore. There were days she considered walking away completely. Starting fresh. Redefining herself outside of the marriage. Those thoughts didn't scare her like they used to. Strength, she realized, didn't always mean holding on. Sometimes it meant knowing you could let go and still survive. Erica, on her own path, began rebuilding quietly. She focused on routine, therapy, boundaries. She stopped reading comments. She stopped explaining herself. She learned that closure doesn't always come from others understanding you. Sometimes it comes from accepting that they never will. One evening, unexpectedly, all three crossed paths at a shared event. No cameras. No warning. The tension was immediate. Yandy felt it in her chest. Erica froze for a second. Mendeecees looked like he wanted the ground to open up. The interaction was brief, polite, controlled, but charged. Fans weren't there to see it, but the weight of history was. Later that night, Yandy admitted to herself that seeing Erica no longer sent her into panic. It still hurt, but it didn't break her. That realization mattered more than she expected. She told Mendeecees that healing didn't mean forgetting. It meant choosing how much power the past held over her future. He listened, knowing better now than to interrupt. As the year moved forward, decisions loomed. Not dramatic ones, quiet ones, the kind that define lives slowly. Whether to fully recommit, whether to fully release, whether rebuilding was possible or just familiar. Fans continued to speculate from the outside, unaware that the real story wasn't explosive anymore. It was slow, complicated, human, because after the shouting fades, after the headlines disappear, what's left is the work. And that work doesn't come with applause. It comes with hard choices, long nights, and the courage to face truth even when no one is watching. And for all of them, that work was far from finished. The turning point didn't come with an argument. It came quietly, on an ordinary day that didn't feel important at first. Yandy was sitting alone, watching her children laugh at something small and silly, when it hit her how much energy she had spent holding everything together for everyone else. She realized she had been surviving, not living. That thought settled deep, heavier than anger, heavier than heartbreak. That night, she asked Mendeecees to come over. Not to fight, not to reconcile, just to talk. When he arrived, he could sense something was different. She wasn't guarded the way she had been. She wasn't emotional either. She was calm in a way that made him nervous. She told him she had spent months trying to understand what forgiveness meant for her. She said forgiveness didn't mean pretending it never happened. It didn't mean trusting blindly again. It meant releasing herself from carrying the anger every day. She said she was tired. Mendeecees listened, barely breathing. She told him she didn't know yet if their marriage would survive, but she knew one thing for certain. She would never again shrink herself to protect someone else's secrets. She said if they moved forward in any capacity, it would be with complete honesty or not at all. He nodded, tears filling his eyes. He said he accepted whatever decision she made. He said losing her trust was the greatest regret of his life. Yandy didn't comfort him. She didn't need to. She just needed him to understand. In a different space, Erica was also facing her own reckoning. The dust had settled, but the emotional cost lingered. She had told the truth, but now she had to live with the consequences of being permanently connected to a story that wasn't just hers. She focused on building a life that didn't revolve around conflict. Therapy became routine. Silence became healing. One afternoon, she received a message she didn't expect. It was from Yandy. Brief. Honest. Yandy said she wasn't reaching out to reopen wounds, but to close a door properly. She said anger had kept her stuck, and she was choosing to let it go for her own peace. Erica read the message several times before responding. When she did, she thanked her. No defenses, no explanations, just gratitude. That exchange didn't make them friends. It didn't erase the past. But it marked the end of open war. Fans would never see it, never analyze it, never argue about it. And that was exactly why it mattered. Mendeecees noticed the shift too. Yandy seemed lighter, still cautious, but no longer consumed. She smiled more easily. She slept better. She laughed without guilt. He realized then that healing didn't guarantee reconciliation. It guaranteed growth. Eventually, a decision was made. Not announced, not dramatized. Yandy chose herself first. She chose stability, honesty, and boundaries. Whether that future included Mendeecees in the same way or not was secondary to her sense of self. She made it clear that love without trust was no longer an option for her. Mendeecees accepted that rebuilding would take years, if it happened at all. He committed to doing the work regardless of the outcome. Not to win her back, but to become a man who never repeated the same mistake. Accountability stopped being something he said and became something he practiced. As time went on, the story faded from headlines. Fans moved on. New drama replaced old drama. But for those involved, the impact remained. Quieter, deeper, permanent. Yandy learned that strength didn't mean enduring everything. It meant knowing when to stop carrying what wasn't hers. Erica learned that truth, while painful, was necessary for her survival. Mendeecees learned that silence is never neutral, and avoidance always has a cost. The family was left divided in some ways, but healed in others. Not perfectly, not completely, but honestly. And when people look back on the chaos, the arguments, the tears, they'll remember the explosion. But the real story was what came after. The rebuilding, the boundaries, the courage to face reality without hiding. Because in the end, the DNA test didn't just confirm a fact. It exposed everything that had been buried, and forced everyone involved to finally choose who they were going to be next. The months that followed felt quieter on the surface, but underneath, everything was still shifting. Routines settled into new shapes. Conversations became more intentional. Nothing was rushed anymore. Yandy moved with purpose now, not reacting, not explaining herself to the world. She learned that peace didn't announce itself. It showed up slowly, in moments when her chest didn't feel tight, when her thoughts didn't spiral back to that night. She focused on building a life that felt grounded. Mornings with her children became sacred. Laughter returned in small doses, cautious but real. She stopped measuring her strength by how much pain she could endure and started measuring it by how well she protected her boundaries. That alone changed everything. Mendeecees remained present, but different. Humbled. Quieter. He stopped trying to convince anyone of anything. He showed up where he was allowed, stayed back where he wasn't. Accountability became a daily practice, not a performance. There were days when hope flickered between them, and days when distance felt necessary. Both were respected. They talked openly about the future without pretending to know what it would look like. Yandy said uncertainty no longer scared her. She had survived certainty shattering. Anything after that felt manageable. Erica continued her own journey, intentionally out of the spotlight. She learned to separate her identity from the chaos that once consumed her. She found strength in routine, in being present, in choosing not to relive the past publicly. The truth was out, she didn't need to keep bleeding to prove it. Occasionally, memories surfaced, not as triggers but as reminders. Reminders of how easily silence can turn into damage. How quickly unresolved choices grow into explosions. Those reminders became lessons instead of wounds. Fans still speculated, but the story no longer belonged to them. There were no dramatic reunions. No explosive confrontations. Just people living with the consequences of truth and choosing how to move forward. One evening, Yandy sat alone, reflecting on how much she had changed. She realized she no longer needed closure in the way she once thought she did. Understanding had replaced obsession. Clarity had replaced confusion. She no longer asked why it happened. She focused on what she would allow next. She understood now that the DNA test didn't destroy her life. It exposed cracks that already existed. It forced conversations that were long overdue. It stripped away illusions and demanded growth. Painful, yes. Devastating, absolutely. But also necessary. Mendeecees came to understand that love without honesty is just fear wearing affection. He carried that lesson with him, knowing it would shape every relationship moving forward, no matter where life led him. Erica learned that speaking the truth doesn't guarantee comfort, but it guarantees self-respect. She stopped waiting for validation and started trusting her own voice. The family was left divided in some ways, redefined in others. Not perfect, not healed overnight, but real. And reality, as painful as it can be, is the only place where growth actually happens. As time passed, the drama faded into memory. What remained were lessons written deep into each of them. Lessons about accountability, boundaries, and the cost of silence. Lessons about choosing yourself without becoming bitter. Lessons about facing consequences without running. And in the end, the story wasn't about who won or who lost. It was about what happens when the truth finally comes out. Who you become after everything you believed collapses. And whether you have the courage to build something honest from the ruins. Now that you've heard every layer of this explosive story, the question isn't what happened anymore. The question is how you feel about it. Because if this drama proved anything, it's that truth never comes quietly, and once it's out, nothing is ever the same again. You watched loyalty get tested. You saw emotions run high. You witnessed a family left divided, not just by one revelation, but by years of silence, fear, and choices made in the dark. And whether you found yourself siding with Yandy, understanding Erica, or questioning Mendeecees, one thing is clear. This story hit deep for a reason. Now it's your turn. Do you think Yandy did the right thing by choosing herself first? Or should she have fought harder to hold everything together? Do you believe Erica was justified in finally speaking her truth, or do you feel the timing crossed an unforgivable line? And where does accountability really begin when secrets affect innocent children? Fans are still shocked. Opinions are still divided, and this conversation is far from over. This is where you come in. If this story kept you listening, if it made you feel something, if it had you questioning loyalty, love, and truth, then make your voice part of the discussion. Drop your thoughts in the comments and tell everyone exactly where you stand. No filters, no holding back, because your perspective matters here. And if you want more dramatic, emotional, and jaw-dropping stories like this, make sure you show your support. Hit like if this story pulled you in. Hit subscribe so you never miss the next chapter. And turn on notifications, because the next story could be even messier than this one. This channel is where secrets come to light, where emotions collide, and where reality-style drama never stops. But none of it works without you watching, reacting, and sharing your voice. So don't just listen and leave. Stay, engage, comment, and tell us, if you were in Yandy's position, what would you have done?